Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice one. Okay, well, I'm sure our number ones are the same. My number one is the Bureau XCOM Declassified. Yeah. Have you finished it?
I finished it. Yeah, I finished it ages ago, in fact. But this is the first week I've been able to speak about it properly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've done about half of it, so go ahead.
Okay, so everyone knows what it is. I talked about it already. It's the game that was the XCOM first-person shooter that disappeared for a while, came back, disappeared again, and then reappeared as this Mass Effect combat style third-person tactical shooter set in the 60s. You play as Agent, what's his fucking name? William
Carter,
I can't remember. Yeah, it's so fucking forgettable that I literally. You play as this dude. The most interesting thing about the game is that you can control your squad mates and like direct them on the battlefield, get them to use their powers. Problem with the game is it's like when the combat works, it's quite good fun, and when there are good levels that are in cool settings that manage to kind of capture that 60s Americana / Mad Men vibe that they're going for / like kind of the origins of XCOM, like the origins of the FBI kind of thing. All that stuff's cool, but I mean, you might not have got to this yet, but it just gives up halfway through and just turns into generic sci-fi bollocks. Every build, you just go into like alien buildings that are just grey structures, endless combat. We just kill a bunch of enemies, and the next wave bursts through the door, kill them, next wave bursts through the door. Your teammates suddenly reveal themselves as just thick as shit, and you're just doing everything for them, and they'll still manage to get themselves into danger the whole time. And then the story gets so stupid towards the end that I was just going, fucking end, man, end, I'm done, you're done, it's over. And yet you still have to keep going and going and going. And it really dragged the game down for me in the end. I ended up giving it a 6 for Video Gamer. Points early on, it was hovering around the 8 mark, but yeah, it just fucking, as so many games do, especially this like dying breed of AA, needs to be 8 to 10 hours, needs to be 40 quid type of game, it just ran out of ideas.
Damn, that's a real shame, because it won me over after one of the worst first missions of any game in recent memory.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. Yeah.
It's really, I mean, it's so boring. I was like, I started to nod off, and the fact that they introduce your character and he's a grieving drunk, and I was like, I'm not doing this again. And then they introduced combat, and I was like, this is all right. It's like a vague approximation of XCOM combat, sort of the way you're directing your guys around. Otherwise, it's a kind of sort of ham-fisted Gears of War. I'm not really interested. But over the course of the 5 or 6 hours that I've played it, it's really won me over. I think the way they've implemented that sort of turn-based XCOM combat into a sort of third-person action game, it genuinely works. And once you start leveling up your guys, and they can, you're flanking, and they've got their turrets and scatter grenades and all the kit they got, and you can start sort of lifting people. I mean, when you're doing all of that stuff, and you're sort of, I felt like I was playing XCOM at certain points. I wasn't doing a lot of run and gunning. I was stopping, directing those guys, doing all of this. But I think I'm about halfway through.
Yeah, I'm honestly, my reaction was exactly the same.
But it just goes down the toilet.
It just falls apart, and so many games do.
Fuck.
Whether they run out of time, it's a funny development anyway. But like by the end, I've read a lot of reviews of it, and you can tell the ones that didn't play towards the end, because they talk about the story being good and interesting, and it's like makes good use of the setting. And I'm like, no, it fucking doesn't. It does for a bit, and then it just turns into Greyland.
Damn, that's such a shame, because the realisation that this is actually so much better than I initially thought, I was like, wow, when I put it down after those few hours, I was like, this is a cool as hell game. I was really depressed to see the middling reviews, because I know we're on the brink of a new console hardware, but the fact that this might die, because it is made with a lot of love. You can tell they love the XCOM, what I suppose now is the XCOM brand, because it really fit. When I started to sort of create my guys, change their names, you can't pick women, but by and large it's similar to the system.
One of the main characters in the game is a female field agent. I'm not getting involved with the whole, all that bollocks that people like to harp on about, but I did think that was quite stupid.
Yeah. But just the fact that I felt like it did actually work, this melding of these two genres. I think the problem is that there are moments where the third-person action gamey stuff is really run-of-the-mill, but that hasn't happened so much. It's mainly XCOM combat in Mass Effect / Gears of War, and I'm loving it so far. I'm really disappointed to hear that it goes down the tubes.
We'll see what you think, but I'd be amazed if you didn't come to the same conclusion.
Okay, the dialogue. You've got Mass Effect style dialogue wheels.
Yeah.
Do they have any bearing on what happens?
There are different endings, but I can't go into it without spoiling it. It just goes in a direction that's just made me want to get up and walk out of the room.
Shit, what a shame.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I'd really flipped my opinion. I think it's really atmospheric with those sleepwalkers walking around. I mean, I don't want to give anything away. I don't know. I don't think it's going to do well, unfortunately. I think at this point, having played what I've played, I think if you're a fan of XCOM, either the original or the Enemy Within, that's the new DLC. Enemy Unknown. I think that there's a very good chance this could be your favourite game of the year, because I really think that combat, the blend of those two systems, really, really works.
I vehemently disagree.
Oh, really? You don't think the combat actually works?
No, I do, but it quickly stops working. It works for about 3 hours in the middle of the game, where the challenge is perfect, the setting's good, the level design supports what you're doing, but then it just turns into fucking corridor and enemy spam and enemies that... It's just a nightmare. It just turns into a fucking nightmare. And then it felt like everything XCOM never was. Just dumbass. But yeah, it's such a shame, because it did have those 3 hours. I was the same. I was having a chat with Simon, who's the editor of Video Gamer, during the process, and I was like, this is shit. And then 2 or 3 hours later on the Skype chat thingy, it's like, actually, mate, this is really good. And then later on, I'm like, fucking kill me. So, yeah, I personally, I would not recommend it to XCOM fans.
I don't know, the joy and the pain of creating friends or famous people and seeing them succeed or die, I still think there's a lot of fun.
I like that, yeah.
I don't know. It feels like part of that universe. It does feel like it's been created with so much love. I don't know. I'll speak more about it next week. But
later on, the thing with your soldiers can die. Later on, you just reload the checkpoint. It's not like XCOM. I know you can reload your last save, but if they go down, you're just like, oh, fuck it, I'll just reload the checkpoint, because I'm only going to go back about 2 seconds, and it saves me having to build up a whole new agent, because he's not going to level up in time.
Damn.
It feels like they forced that idea in because they felt like that will make it XCOM-y, but they didn't really have enough game to actually support it in the end.
What did you give it, a 6?
A 6, because I did enjoy those hours. By the end, it was just bollocks, but yeah, I did really enjoy those hours. But yeah, ultimately, I feel sorry for 2K Maroon, because I think that their original game that they showed, which, from what I'd heard on the download many years ago, was actually heavily Ken Levine involved, because that's what I'd heard. XCOM was his new game way before that XCOM was announced, like good 18 months before, in a drunken conversation with someone I won't talk about. But I would just feel bad for them that they didn't get to make their game that they wanted to make.